Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floor. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the home.
What's up, everybody? Ron Pure Sports NBA Final Countdown Show. We're coming 30 minutes earlier. That's okay. It's basically up the lock to a degree. We'll be in the Discord chat after the show, breaking everything down. We got the playbook up. We got NFL tonight, so we got tons of stuff going on. We even got college basketball from Steve Boynton, if you're a big college basketball guy. But we're here to talk hoops, and we're talking the NBA. I'm here with AP. AP, how are you feeling after a Kansas City Chiefs loss?
I gotta admit, it looks like I'm crying right now. My eyes are watery as crap, like battling something, some sort of sickness. It's not because of Kansas City. Trust me, they're 9-1. They're fine. Not worried about that at all. I mean, Kansas City will be fine. There were a lot of positives in that game, and there were a lot of negatives too. And I'm like, I thought it was a good game. I thought it was entertaining. Good for Josh Allen. Not like if they would have, I would have laughed so hard if they would have kicked the field. Obviously, I wanted them to kick the field goal, get the ball back in Mahomes' hands, let him piece together that defense. But Josh Allen did it, man. He got it done. So you gotta give your hat, take your hat off to them and the Bills. And good win. They're good at beating the Chiefs in the regular season. And man, we'll see. We'll see when the playoffs get here.
Yeah. It'll be fun. Obviously, it's a long season. We know in the NBA it's a long season too. So, but we'll be here breaking it down for you guys. We'll talk some NBA. Obviously, NFL. We got Cowboys tonight. We'll let those other shows take care of that. We'll dive into the NBA street. And AP, it's a shorter slate tonight. I guess before we dive in, I assume were you on the playbook today? Who was on the playbook?
Yeah, I got the playbook up. We got the heat map up. Spent a lot of time going through rotations. Obviously there's a lot of injury news yet to have, but there's some really good matchups. The Bulls are playing at such a fast pace, and my Pistons, I'm going to call them my Pistons because I've been betting their side every single night, and they've just been printing for us, absolutely printing. I'm on them again tonight. They were incredible yesterday, both teams on a back-to-back, but there's a lot of spots where we have condensed tight rotations that look like playoff rotations. The Knicks, the Pacers, not the Pistons as much with Tim Hardaway back, but their key guys play a ton of minutes. And then you just got a lot of wonky spots. What's Miami going to do? Spoelstra, he's always, it's so for me, I think we can ignore certain spots, and then we can just absolutely go all in on a few of these, what I think are the really good spots. That's what I'm going to be doing tonight.
Yep, there's definitely some really good spots to attack and target. I know I'll be attacking those a bit. I do want to mention they might be your Pistons, AP, but Tobias Harris is my guy. Okay. So,
yeah, that's true. That is your guy.
I love me some Pistons, Tobias Harris, and I'll admit I've bet the Pistons a little bit this year, so I'm excited for them. Looking forward to it. Let's dive in and talk about that game first. That's, I think, a very big game to discuss. I think it's the first one on the slate, and it's a standalone island game as well. It's worth mentioning. So I'm definitely going to like some Pistons. I think it starts with, for one, Cade Cunningham. What he's doing this year has been crazy, but this is the matchup where you expect him to have that ceiling performance. I think it's a great spot for him. I'm on the Cade Cunningham train. I love Tobias Harris at 6.3K. I think it's a great spot for him. We do have two pieces of injury news that came across the timeline. It looks like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jaden Ivey, they are both in and probable. So we're expecting them in. We're expecting basically these guys at full strength, and that's obviously good for the bet that you made. DFS-wise, I'm going to love some Pistons. The Bulls, I mean, listen, they're not a team I'm dying to get to in this spot. If we look at our friends at SaberSim, ownership on them is a little bit lower. The one guy that is gaining ownership is Zach LaVine, who's around 26% owned. It's because the price, $7K, and a Pistons matchup is really good. He's guard and forward eligible, so lots of ways to roster him. I do think he's the best Bulls option, probably followed by maybe Vucevic if you have the money to spend for him at 7.8K. I don't know if that's the best use of your salary, but overall, my 3 top plays in this game are Tobias Harris, Cade Cunningham, and Zach LaVine. Talk about this game, AP.
Yeah, this game right out of the gate, it's going to be like these games are really interesting. You've seen multiple times in the right game environment where the Bulls, they're a bad team, but I'm intrigued by them because they play so fast. And the more possessions that you have, the more opportunity there is for fantasy points. And that's what we want. Like, that's what we absolutely want our guys that we're rostering in that type of position. So it's always, if the Bulls can keep the game close, how do we attack them? Exactly what you said, Cade Cunningham, a smash spot, one of the best flow chart spots on the slate. If you just look back, Fred VanVleet nuked in this matchup. Garland, he went off. Brunson had a decent game, but it was really in that game against New York. Towns, he put up a 70-piece, 50 raw, I think. I think that was his 50 raw game. I mean, he absolutely went nuts. I mean, if you just go back, it's just a clear and obvious flowchart spot. And the reason is they're playing so fast. So it's really like a dream matchup for point guards and for centers too. So my friend Jalen Duren back in the mix for me. No one's going to play him. He's going to be low owned. Centers loaded on this slate. So again, is he a frustrating roster at times? He is, but this is such a good matchup for him to get putbacks, to get rebounds, a couple blocks. I mean, and then Jaden Ivey, the other guy in a really nice flowchart spot. I mean, if Mikal Bridges can have himself a day, I think he almost put up 40 DK points against him. You got to think that Jaden Ivey could go off. So if you just go back and look, Donnie Mitchell twice, Dyson Daniels, Anthony Edwards, combo guards have absolutely done well. So we love the guards. We love the centers in this matchup. And then, yeah, I'm with you on the Chicago side. I like LaVine. You get the positional flexibility, shooting guard, small forward. I think the price tag is a bit light. I'm not going crazy with the Chicago side. I do agree with you on Vucevic. Patrick Williams has been playing better until yesterday. Look, that was a function of, and a lot of people don't follow the NBA on Sundays. And I'm not sitting there saying I watched every game. My Chiefs are on, so obviously that was priority. But that game blew out. So I don't think any starter played over 30 minutes. Outside of that game, Pat Williams has been playing really well. And this is a guy I've been extremely hard on, has been very bad and underwhelmed relative to like where he expects and where you know, honestly, he should be if you look at his contract and everything like that. So I think he bounces back here. Not the best matchup, but again, I think it's fine. So I like this game. I'm going to have multiple pieces, both sides of it. The last thing is, and again, his minutes are all over the map, but we've seen, so Kobe White, worst matchup against the Pistons, especially with Jaden Ivey back. Very good defender. It's not bad. It's not a bad matchup for guys like Josh Giddey who get peripheral stats, who can distribute. It's just this guy's minutes is all over the map. You need him to get there early. It's a very risky play. I think if you're running 150 or in MME formats, you leave him in your pool because at 6K in the right environment, if his shot is on, he does have upside at this price. It just comes with a lot of risk.
Yeah, definitely agree with a lot of what you said. We got guys hanging out in the chat. We got Andy, Crew, West Coast Jim. Happy to have you, Mr. Collectibles. We got everyone. So King Mao, I do want to address this. King Mao. Duren was cheeks last game, but when you pull up popcorn machine, you look at the game against Washington, and again, we're not playing for tonight. I don't care for yesterday. I don't care what he did yesterday. I care about tonight. Duren played 4 minutes.
The game went small. Okay, no one was watching Sunday Wizards freaking Pistons game. The game went.
He got in foul trouble, right? So he had 3 fouls in the first half.
Yeah.
He had in the first 4 minutes 2 personal fouls. He came in at 7:47, 6:30, picked up another foul, 3 fouls in 5 minutes, basically. I mean, no kidding. He played 18 minutes and got 28 DK points. He absolutely dominated. And on top of that, the final 4 minutes of the game, was when Johnny Davis, Patrick Baldwin, Jared Butler, Bagley, and Gill were in the game for the Wizards. The game was absolutely over. Duren came out of the game at the 4-minute and 20 mark when the blowout exchange happened. Duren ran extremely terrible and absolutely dominated in the 18 minutes he was out there. He certainly could dominate and be a great tournament play here. So, AP, I'm with you. I think Duren is a great tournament play.
It's a good – I'm trying to find a good example. I think the Nets is a fair example, but it's such a good rebounding matchup as well, and that's all derived by pace. So, and Jalen Duren is one of the best rebounders out there. So yeah. I think he gets a double-double here. I think we see normal minutes. Isaiah Beef Stew, he's been good off the bench. I just think, I don't know. I think they're going to prioritize rebounding against the Bulls. So I would side with Jalen Duren. 6,100, fair price tag.
Yeah. Overall, it was I'm with you. Isaiah Stewart, it's fine, but it's not like him and Duren cut into each other. That's the one thing I would call out. If you look, when Duren was off the court, guess who was in? Isaiah Stewart last game. And of course, that was some of obviously the going small and stuff, but I just think Stewart and Duren, you're not going to see them playing that much together in this matchup, I would say. So I'm not super interested in Isaiah Stewart and Duren. I would set a rule, not have them together, but I do think Duren's a good tournament play. I love Tobias Harris and Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey, not a bad play. And then on the Bulls side, I like Levine. I like Vucevic. That's mainly the guys that I'm looking to target. Let's kick it over to the next game. Let's go to the Indiana Pacers and the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, we have a lot of guys still out on the Raptors. They're missing tons of guys. RJ Barrett is 8.6K, which seems like a crazy tag. But when you put up 68 fantasy points against the Boston Celtics, listen, you deserve that tag. And gets a matchup against the Pacers, clearly one that we can target. Pacers side of the ball, they can be very frustrating in the roster at times, especially if the game isn't blowout. They are missing guys. Nembhard, Shepard, they are both out. Going to be good for Mr. Benny Mack. Going to be good for Tyrese Halliburton, as I like to say. So Tyrese is going to be a good play. Siakam at 7-2 in a revenge spot, I guess you could say. Not a bad play here. I think he has upside, but I'd be a little bit cautious. Miles Turner, I know he's got that questionable tag. I believe is he still got the questionable tag? Yeah, he still has the questionable tag, so that is something we're going to watch for. Clearly, if he's out, that's going to change the slate a little bit. So it's a game that could really be good. And we saw it the other day, AP, when the Raptors are in competitive games, like they were with the Celtics, some of these guys are going to get there. They're going to have monster, just GPP winning games. When they don't, though, it could be a disaster. So there are good ceiling plays on the Raptors side of the ball, and that means there's going to be good plays on the Pacers, too, because if this game shoots out, you're going to want exposure to it. If it doesn't, though, man, it could be a great fade spot. So it's one of those spots where I think it has a very wide range of outcomes with what you're going to get here. So how are you going to attack this game with it clearly being a spot that has a huge ceiling?
Yeah, this game I think is one of the more interesting ones tonight from a betting standpoint and from a DFS standpoint. I mean, this Raptors team, you got to give them some credit. They're playing hard. They're absolutely hobbled with injuries. I mean, they have no one, but it's been RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl, and they got this game going right now with Grady Dick was like, if you go back to the game on Saturday against Boston, obviously Boston did not take that game seriously at all. Went to overtime. I thought the Raptors were going to get the win there, and then Jason Tatum travels but hits the three. Which was a crazy ending to that game. But it was more the fact that RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl were incredible, and the Raptors are playing hard right now. You got the Pacers coming off a big win over the Heat yesterday, and you got the Raptors that are somewhat rested. So I think this game is close. I think I have an under bet on it. The total's pretty high. I think a few things happen. So if you look at the rotation yesterday, against the Heat, Miles Turner played 40 minutes, no OT. I mean, he had to be out there, and you saw a really condensed rotation, but that's just a function of the injuries on the Pacers side as well. So what I see happening is, and obviously it depends on if Miles Turner plays, but on these back-to-backs, or it's not even back-to-backs, it's coming off games where he's played a ton of minutes, you typically see Carlisle a little bit easier with his minutes the next game. You see like a 4 to 5 to 6 minute drop off, and especially in back-to-back. So I think it's a spot where we see more TJ McConnell. I potentially think we see more Obi Toppin. I like those two guys. Obviously, want to keep an eye on the Turner news. But really, I think the play is Pascal Siakam. This is a guy, and if you're like looking at his box scores, I just pulled it up right now. It's gross. It's like, I'm like, why do I want to play this dude? Like 34, 23, 37, 29, 4. Like, why in the world would I want to play this guy? They haven't been in this situation yet. And if Miles Turner, if his minutes go down or reduced, like Siakam's going to have to play big minutes. And we have yet to see him just really take over game. I think there's extra motivation. And if you get that competitive environment down the stretch, like we saw against Boston, we've seen against other teams that this Toronto team plays, you get a really, really elite overall fantasy environment. So, like, I think Siakam at 7,200, power forward, center eligible, I think he's a really good play tonight. Ownership-wise, I'm not sure where he's going to land. Obviously, if Turner gets ruled out, he's going to be much higher owned. If he's in, I think he's a little bit lower. And then the TJ McConnell thing. So he played 23 minutes yesterday against Miami. We know this guy is a fantasy point per minute beast. He just is. He put up 21 DK points yesterday in 23 minutes. Not the best of his performances. I just think they're going to need more TJ McConnell tonight in there as a guy. When you just look at the other names on this roster, there's not that many available. And TJ McConnell is a guy that they can mix in and play with whoever. Walker is another guy. Benny Mathurin, I think he is going to be in play as well. Look, like the last time I cored Benny Mathurin, he was absolutely terrible, but he's going to get big minutes. And outside of that game, he's been pretty incredible. So I think this game is one you want to prioritize. You want to mix and match these guys. My favorite on each side, I think for the Pacers, my favorite play is becoming Pascal Siakam, 7,200, Walker, 4,300, Mathurin, 6,500, McConnell in there as well, Obi Toppin, and then Halliburton is like is he going to be motivated or not? I mean, this guy can be incredible, and then he can absolutely ghost. So I think you keep him in the pool. I mean, Mango, my question back to you is like, how many is too many? I have it right now, 3 max per any one team. And like how I'm handling the Pacers situation is I'm over projecting a lot of them, but they're capped at 3 max per. So I have a lot of lineups with 3 Indiana Pacers, but it's just kind of mixed and match with who it is. Is that like, what are you doing in a situation like this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at stuff like I see like combos that go 4. I think 4 is too many. Not for me. I think 2 to 3 feels like kind of the sweet spot. 2 is probably 2 maybe is best. I will ask you about one guy. What are you doing with Jarris Walker? Is he someone you're looking at? Because he's a cheap value that I think is kind of enticing at forward. Are you interested in him at all?
Yeah, I think they're going to need to play him heavy minutes. I mean, look at this. Like there's guys I have no idea who they are. Like Enrique Freeman. I mean, I watch the NBA every single night. They're like, I don't watch a lot of college ball, so I don't know where a lot of these guys are coming from. But Johnny Furphy, is that his name? I don't know who these guys are. They're not going to see the court.
Steve would be very upset about the Furphy thing. I think he was a good.
Is that his boy? Is that one of his boys?
I mean, Furphy college. I forget.
I mean, you got James Johnson.
He played at Kansas. He played at Kansas, so he's like.
So I should know him. I do watch some KU games, so I should know who that guy is. But like, who are they going to play? Like, they don't have that's why this game should be so good. I think our boy Chris Boucher is in play as well. So like 4,400. I don't know. I really like this game. Hopefully we get the pace, and hopefully it's not one of those wonky games that's just like a disaster. And I don't think that would be the case. I think it's going to be a great game for fantasy. And I think pricing, when you kind of take a step back and look at it, like, honestly, Siakam, he's 7,200, but that's just because he hasn't been doing anything. I think he's going to have to do stuff in this matchup tonight. So I think you see a higher usage rate. And look at like his last 2 matchups, last 3 matchups, Spoelstra and then Orlando against Spoelstra twice, who's going to take away a certain piece, which he made it life extremely hard on him. And then Orlando's just brutal. Like that's an absolutely brutal one. So remove those games, and if you do, it's not that bad. Is it that good? No, but it's not that bad. I think Siakam is an awesome play tonight.
Yeah. Also, another thing to call out, that the slate could really change if Miles Turner got ruled out. Like that would just get you the point Siakam and more minutes for these guys. So
I hope that doesn't happen, because I still don't think, like, I think he gets managed a little bit either way. He played 40 minutes yesterday. Like the last time he played, when he played 39 against New York, I think he played like 32. I got to see if there's foul troubles. 4 fouls. I mean, that's not that bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Siakam for me, Mathurin, Walker, absolutely love those guys.
Yeah, I like Walker and McConnell as values, very good values. Another guy to call out, and I don't know if you talk too much about him, AP, but like if the game stays close, and because they're so shorthanded, Miles Turner probably plays a lot if he's in. And you know what that means? That means the Raptors need Jakob Poeltl. And if Jakob Poeltl plays 35 minutes or 37 like the last 2 games against Detroit and Boston, I'll tell you, he'll absolutely crush it. I know he's 7-7, but he'll probably have 40-plus DK points. And at that price, that's good enough. And it could even be a GPP winning upside. So in tournaments, don't sleep on him as well. I think, yes, 7-7 feels like a little bit of sticker shock when you see the price, but I think he's a really good play that should not be ignored. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree 100%. You got RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, kind of a 2-man game going on right now. RJ Barrett's been incredible. Like he's been so good. And you got to think that like the Raptors they're the more rested team too. So you have maybe a little bit tired legs coming in. It's just such a good spot. And you're 100% right. Like don't ignore the Raptors side of this game. Abaji, I mean, does he have the upside as some of these other guys? Like Abaji is 6,100. I don't like. I would rather find a way to get to like a Jakob Poeltl or RJ Barrett, if I'm being honest. Like Grady Dick, if he can hit shots, I mean, he could be like he's shown some upside this year. So I think I would side with Grady Dick over Abaji. But again, these are fine plays for sure.
Yep. Fine plays for sure. Clearly going to be a game that we are going to want to go to. And on the flip side, let's say it blows out. You think it's a bad game to get exposure to here? You play like Chris Boucher, Walker, and McConnell and play like that blowout-ish run. It's not the craziest of these. There's lots of ways to do it. Let's keep moving along though. Let's get to the next game. Philadelphia and Miami. Definitely a game we have to discuss. Obviously, Embiid looks like he's not going to play. Doubtful. I don't see it happening. We'll see if we'll get surprised. But yeah, I don't think he's definitely worth getting exposure to. And then we got to talk about these other plays. Jared McCann, let's start there. 5.8K. What he's been doing has been awesome, right? I mean, he's been such a good play. Only 5.8K, and the production he's had has been incredible. Has clearly ceiling winning performance. I know Tyler Hero, someone that you've definitely played in spots here. He's 8K. I still think you could get away with it. The problem is Jimmy Butler's back, right? And that could cause a little bit of usage issues. 7.5K. Doubt I'm really getting to someone like Jimmy Butler in this spot. They are missing Rozier, though, so obviously that could help out usage-wise a little bit. AP, this is not a game I'm loving and I'm looking to load up on, but there are some plays here. I think McCann looks like he might be my favorite in this game. Who are some of the guys you're looking at?
Yeah, Jared McCain, without Embiid. Like Embiid just slows the game down. He likes his little he's a disaster. So like without him in there, McCain's gonna get more shots. It's gonna be him and Paul George. And Yabusele, I think, starts, but man, I don't trust the bigs here against Bam in the middle. Kevin Love could start and play 10 minutes, not 11 minutes. I mean, what's crazy against Indiana, and this goes back to why RJ Barrett and Poeltl are good plays, is Kevin Love put up 36 DK points in 12 minutes against the Pacers. Like, you get the right game environment where Rick Carlisle has him running, it's gonna be good. Don't play Kevin Love here. Jovic has been awesome off the bench. That's what I want Miami to start Love, bring Jovic off the bench. He's just been so much better in that format. So I keep an eye on the starting lineup. Who knows what they're going to do? It could be like a Highsmith, Hero. Like I don't know if they're going to start Josh Richardson, They haven't been starting Duncan Robinson. There's just so much that Spoelstra could do. You just got to keep an eye on the starting lineups here. But I don't love anyone on the Heat side. I like Jovic. I think he's fine. Tyler Hero feels a little bit more expensive, like a little too expensive. I want to prioritize some of the other plays that we talked about. McCain, though, at 5,800, awesome play. This dude's a baller. Like, he's here to stay. I think, like, when Maxey gets back, this team could be interesting. Maxey, McCain, Paul George, Embiid, who we all hate. I think this team is far more interesting if all of them would play, but it might be a while until we see all of them together. But I love what I see in Jared McCain. I think he's a phenomenal play tonight.
Yeah, Jared McCain, definitely a great play. This is not like not my favorite game on the slate. I'm not saying X these guys in GPPs, but like when I go through and like look at like my MME stuff at times, I like to look like, okay, like how much exposure do I have in this game? Like, sure, you can make a case to have Hero and stuff like that, but like if I'm not getting enough exposure to maybe like a Jakob Poeltl, who I think is a good GPP play, I need to make some adjustments, and I'll adjust some Miami guys. So that's just something to think about a little bit when kind of building your teams. Let's get to another game that's actually worth talking about. Washington and New York Knicks. Now, Karl Anthony Towns is 9K AP, which 9K it's a hefty tag, but for a matchup against Washington, you can't disagree with it. Honestly, Jalen Brunson, ever since Cat's been there, I mean, he's been kind of disappointing overall. He hasn't been like the same, which has been a little bit frustrating. Sure, he can have spots where he goes off, but I think it's mainly looking at Cat, right? I think Cat's definitely a good play that we want to look to get to here in this spot. OG Anunoby, I don't completely hate his price tag, and Bridges at 6'4" and 6'6". They have the ability to have ceiling winning performances against a team like Washington. So they're definitely in the conversation because of the minutes that they play. But it's a game that's good, but it's not as good as like those first two games we discussed. What are you doing with the Knicks and Washington? Maybe you have a different perspective than me on this one.
No, I mean, this spot is like it's like the Lions yesterday. And one of the problems or issues I had with yesterday's NFL slate, we'll use this as the analogy, is I liked both running backs, but I'm like, I don't know which one to pick. Well, why not play both? Oh, I like both receivers. Or I think the game's gonna blow out. So like I don't think Amon-Ra St. Brown's gonna hit a ceiling. It doesn't matter. Like their coach just absolutely throat stomped them. And Thibs does the same things. We have a playoff-ish type rotation right now around their starters. Brunson, Bridges, Hart, and Nobi. Towns are going to get big minutes. Deuce McBride is out, and that's massive. It just means this rotation is going to be that much tighter. And then Cam Payne and maybe Sims is going to rotate in a little bit. Outside of that, I would expect like 36, 37, 30, 38 plus minutes from all starters if the Wizards can keep it close. Even if they don't keep it close, I would bet that like 34, 35 minutes is still safe. That's what Thibs does. He loves his guys. He just runs them into the ground. This is a dream matchup for Karl Anthony Towns, like a dream matchup, just like the Bulls. I mean, like, I think he's an incredible play. All the underlying metrics show the same thing. 9K, in my opinion, likely too cheap. We just got to keep over projecting this guy and getting overweight on him until the price catches up, especially in matchups like this one. I think all right, so I agree with you on Jalen Brunson. It's a dream matchup too. Well, I will say if Bilal Coulibaly, if he misses, I think it's a much better matchup for Brunson. Coulibaly, one of their best, probably their best on-ball defender. If I am the Wizards, I just put him on Brunson. If he misses, I have a lot more interest in Brunson. Guard is absolutely loaded on the slate, though. We talked about Cade earlier. I think Cade versus Brunson, I'm playing Cade all day. It's just what I'm doing. And I'm playing Cade and Cat together if I can. I think those two guys could, from a stud standpoint, could absolutely smash on this slate. So for me, it's Towns. I think guys like Josh Hart, he's a good floor play. At 7,400, though, I'm comparing him to Siakam. I think Siakam on this slate, not talking floor, I'm talking ceiling, Siakam has a higher ceiling than a Josh Hart. Josh Hart, safer floor, but I'm playing tournaments. I want that ceiling. I want that ceiling outcome, especially. So the Knicks in a really great spot. My interest is in Karl Anthony Towns and Nobi, Mikal Bridges. These guys are fine, but really Towns is the guy that I want to prioritize. All right. like, and you're gonna call me crazy. I don't trust the Wizards at all. They're an unserious basketball team with unserious players, and I'm talking Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma. These guys don't give a shit about anything, it seems like. But when they're out there, their usage is absolutely insane, like ridiculous. If you get the right game environment, one of these guys is going to break a slate. Kuzma, 6,800. He hasn't sniffed 30 minutes in a while now, but like if you pull up the numbers, 41% usage rate against Atlanta. This is 2 games ago. Over 30% against Detroit. Like the opportunity is there if he can get it going in the right matchup. And the last note is against the Knicks, we have seen these kind of, I want to call it a combo guard or wing type of player go off. Levine went off for 57 DraftKings points. Mathurin went off for 56. Cam Thomas went off for almost 56. So what I've been trying to figure out is who's it going to be on the Wizards. Maybe it's no one. That's probably the most likely outcome. If I had to make a guess, though, it would be I can't say Koulibaly because he's more of a defensive guy. If he was more aggressive with his shot, then I think it could be him. I think it has to be Poole or Kyle Kuzma or no one. But I'm working those guys. I haven't played the Wiz. I know like we got the bit and I'm the Jordan Poole guy or whatever. I've not been playing these guys. I am going to play them in tonight's matchup, though, because I think if this game stays close, it's interesting. Do I trust the situation at all on the Wizards side? Absolutely not. That's why it's a multi-entry play only.
Yeah, it's definitely more multi-entry play, and I'm with you, AP. Like I can't see myself playing these guys unless it's like large field tournaments where it's like I'm expecting like that kind of stack, right? And you're not like organically stacking it, but like just kind of letting the optimizer take over. I don't want to be too overweight in this spot. I'm sort of with you on that. It's
a more so, and I still don't like. All right, so Steven asked, should we be afraid of blowout? Absolutely, you should be afraid of blowout, but blowouts aren't really something that I'm factoring in. Like, go back to the Boston games recently. Like, there's a game. It was the Friday night game. Who do they play? I'm losing it right now, but they're like 18-point favorites. You never see that in the NBA, and they lost. Who'd they play, man? I know you were watching that game.
Which game?
On Friday night, the tournament game. Who did Boston play?
They played the Hawks and they lost. I actually didn't.
They played the Hawks and the Hawks had no one. Like Trae Young was out. They had it was Jalen Johnson and Richese and like they had no one and they won. Like Dyson
Daniels is like the best defender of all time or something. It's crazy.
Like if you're trying to predict and project blowouts, I just think you're doing it wrong because there's going to be spots where again teams let down. I don't think Thibs is not going to let that happen to the Knicks, but again, stranger things have happened. That's why in large field tournaments only, I'm considering those type of guys.
Yeah, I don't like to predict blowout, but one thing I like to do on slates like this, especially if like I'm not saying it's like for sure like the slate. Like I had a really good slate on I think it was Friday. I got like fourth in like the $200, but like when you see everyone condensing on like 3 to 5 teams, right, based on news and stuff like that. Everyone wants to be like, I want a piece of this one and this one. And like, so one thing you could easily do on this slate, I don't think it's like a bad way to go. If I told you didn't play, and this is what I did, I didn't play the Pacers. And honestly, I wanted to. If you're on the Premium Up the Lock show, you heard me say, I wish I had Benny Mac because it fits this build that I like. Yeah. But I faded Halliburton and Benny. I faded both of them. And I had a great team because that game just blew out and they didn't get that run. That was a simple way of doing it. I didn't say I predicted blowout. I just didn't grab a piece of everything, which is sometimes a great way to build out your lineups and playing good plays. I talk about this in Showdown a lot, right? Like if you just play, like I know this is a different sport, but the 3 best plays tonight in Showdown are clearly Mixon, Nico Collins, and CJ Stroud. Every single person is playing them. If I told you only could play one and built the rest of your teams with good plays, you could still build a really good team. And you're taking a pretty big stand against some really good options. And of course it can burn you. But if you said today, 2 plays that are going to get ownership probably, I would say are like Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris. Maybe Tobias isn't like, 50%, but you're going to see heavy ownership, I think, on those 2 guys. Would you agree, AP, those 2 options?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you just said if you just said no Pistons for me and they get blown out by 40, I'm not saying predict the blowout, but just you're staying away from them because you're going to other good plays. That's ways that I kind of do it. I never say I think this game's going to blow out or I don't, but I want to make sure I'm playing good plays also.
My question to you is, all right, the like trend that we see against the Knicks is this wing or combo-ish type of guard. And it like we live in a positionless NBA if you watch it. They're switching. They're like Kyle Kuzma could be this guy, even though he's a stretch four. Like who do you think is most likely to be the guy that goes off in the Garden tonight? If you had to pick one guy, and we're talking like the flagship contest where you can get kind of creative, get different, and weird, and you can play these like outlandish type of plays. Like that's obviously the goal. We're trying to take down the 100K. Like who on the Wizards would it be in your opinion?
Who on the Wizards?
Yeah, like so, Mango. My question was the trend that we continue to see against the Knicks is a Levine, Paul George, almost a 60 piece, Mathurin 56, Risha Shea 59. Like this wing-ish combo guard type of player, ball dominant, not even ball dominant on some of these, but like they get going and they put like Cam Thomas 55. I think it was 16 of 25 or 22 from the field. So like who in your opinion, like I think someone on the Wizards is going to go off tonight. And my stance was it's either Poole or Kuzma, like one of those guys, not both.
Yeah, so the way you could build your teams for sure is, and this is not a bad way to do it sometimes, AP, is you bump the projections of both those guys and then you say at most one, so you'll never get them together, right? The optimizer will not push them together, which is sort of what you want. Like that's a great way to do it in football as well. Like if you don't want to have all these like 3-man stacks and 4-man stacks because you bumped all these projections, make that rule so you only get a certain amount and you'll still naturally get exposure to it. You'll be overweight enough and you won't have these weird teams where you're like, why do I have these guys together? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So especially with a site like SaberSim that can kind of correlate a little bit to at times and you might not want to do that. So that's a great way to do it. I think you're on to something here with that thought process. But
I think it's interesting. And look, I got to be honest. Like, am I able to watch every single Knicks game? No, I'm not. I try to watch as much as I can. And I try to look at this, but you have this team that's constructed with very elite, like wing defenders. And you continue to see like one person, like absolutely nut. It seems like every single matchup. So I don't know. It'll be interesting tonight. The Wizards are an absolute disaster though. So like, I would not be surprised if they just came in and it was a complete joke, but my guess is going to be, I keep looking at Kyle Kuzma and I look at the game against Atlanta. 28 shots in 29 minutes is pretty ridiculous. So maybe I go the Kyle Kuzma route. I don't know, but one of these guys is gonna nuke. We should probably move off this game.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's worth talking about, right? So I don't want to ignore it. And again, we don't have too many more games, AP. We got 2 more games. Let's get to Houston and Milwaukee. So yeah, the news on that game: Giannis probable, Damian Lillard probable. As I joked about in the NBA chat, not as good as Peyton Pritchard, but Damian Lillard's back, whatever. You can roster him tonight. I don't love this game. Maybe, I mean, you've definitely watched a lot more NBA than me to start off the year, I'd probably say. I mean, I've definitely tracked it more, but you probably watched more games than me, I would say. And I just don't know if I need to target this game a lot. I think one of the issues is pricing, right? Giannis is 12K. I think tonight's a better night for like the tier 2 stars than like the tier 1s when it comes to pricing and everything. So I'm not dying to get to Giannis. Bobby Portis is 6'7", Brook Lopez is 5'7", and now we have Lillard back. Lillard is 9'2". I just don't love the Bucks in this spot. I don't think they're I mean, sure, these studs could get there, but I just think there's better use of your salary and exposures today. Şengün could clearly always have a good game. I know you're a big Şengün guy. He's got 50 or more DK points, actually 56 or more DK points in 3 of his last 4 games. Clearly they're going to need his size. I just haven't been loading up on Houston this season. It hasn't been a team I've needed to get to. And I don't think it's one of like the more fruitful games on this slate. I think those earlier ones we've talked about have some really good potential. Maybe I'm missing something, but why don't you talk about this game for the people?
Yeah, I mean, Ime Udoka, really impressive what he's done with this Rockets team. They've quietly won 9 of the last 11. They're first in their division, Southwest Division. I I like this rotation for them. Not like I'm not saying fantasy wise. I'm just talking like in general. Like he has them playing really hard right now. Fred VanVleet's been awesome. I think the wrong team's favorite here. And again, like I think this Bucks team is terrible. I don't think they're a good basketball team at all. I think Dame Lillard's overrated. Andre Jackson's out there for defense, but he's a slasher. Prince out there. He's a defensive guy too. And, honestly, this is super gross, but I think what the Bucks do is like you got to put Jackson and Prince on Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green. Now, again, team switch. They find the matchups that they want, so I don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but it could leave more open shots for Dylan Brooks. Or what happens is we see Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, more of them off the bench, and one of them get extended run. I always set a rule with those two guys. They're bench players, so I don't want both of them in my lineups. It's always one or the other. But they're also priced like starters too, which makes it tricky. So I'm with you. Overall, I'm under on this game in large field tournaments. I keep them in the pool. If they hit a few lineups, I'm perfectly fine with it. It's the worst matchup in the world for Şengün from a foul standpoint. I'm off of him. Center's loaded too. We have other centers that I think we want to prioritize. One we talked about in depth, Karl-Anthony Towns. So no Şengün for me tonight. I'm off Giannis too. The studs that I want are Cade Cunningham and Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't want to pay a premium, a $12K price tag for Giannis, who with Dame back, obviously they can ease him back a little bit. Like if you go back to that game against Detroit, it was basically Giannis against Detroit, and Giannis was absolutely incredible. Not going to be the situation tonight. So the last note is Fred VanVleet feels a little too cheap, $6,800. Really nice price tag for him.
Yeah, I did bet a Fred VanVleet over at 15.5 points. If that helps you in DFS, I just looked at stuff, and it's all numbers that
he's been awesome, man. He's been awesome.
Well, yeah, and honestly, with Dame back, I love targeting Damian Lillard defense. So maybe I should consider VanVleet more. I should think about that a little bit more.
I mean, I didn't want to mention it, but it's gross. But if they're wise with how with their defensive scheme, like it would mean more shots for Dylan Brooks. But I hate Dylan Brooks. I'm like never playing that guy. I don't be surprised if he gets a few more looks tonight, though.
Yes, do not be surprised. Let's get to Orlando and Phoenix. I do want to talk to you a little bit about this game for sure because, Wendell Carter Jr. doubtful, right? That I don't think. Again, this is a later game. I don't think he magically gets upgraded, but you never know. Goga at 5'1", he's clearly someone that you can look to roster. We know the Suns, they're still banged up, right? Let's just go through it. Kevin Durant out, Nurkic out. So Plumlee and then what's his name? Oso Ighodaro. He's nice. Seen minutes as of late. You got Dunn, you got Royce O'Neal, of course. Josh Okogie, he's shown some upside at times, but he can obviously be up and down. I mean, overall, this is definitely a spot where it's not going to be super owned. So if you want low ownership plays, they're here. We're not going to have starting lineups in all the news. So that's something that obviously could keep the ownership down as well. So I know this is probably the game that gets the least ownership on the slate. Now, is that warranted? Do we think anyone's going to be on the winning lineup? Again, I just don't see myself getting there. Now, I play more cash games, just like a more like tighter 3-max kind of stuff. The only guy I think I could see myself playing is Oso as a value. I don't think he's crazy because of the minutes that he's seen. But one thing I'll call out, I'm not super confident he's going to get that run. I do see myself playing more stars and scrubs where it's like really cheap values and then a lot of these like, 7 to 9K kind of stud options. I just don't know what to do with him. He's the key guy that I have to figure out what I want to do with. I know Dunn has been a value that people have looked at. Jonathan Isaac is another value you could talk about that does get solid minutes, and for 4.2K, he's not the craziest play on the slate. So there's plays in this game, but I don't know. It might be better to get away from them. And with the news, Steven just gave us Miles Turner out. I don't know. Maybe I should stay off this game even more.
Yeah. So here's like my take on this game. The Suns right now, God, you got two teams that. One, we know the Magic are a defensive-minded team they're loaded with KCP, Jalen Suggs. Like these are defensive, just awesome, defenders. Jonathan Isaac now is up to mid 20s minutes off the bench. Maybe one of the best, better if not one of the best defensive players in the NBA. And so like I'm hesitant even on this Oso guy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm super familiar with this guy's game, but if he's going to be coming off the bench too, and he's going to be in there with Jonathan Isaac in there, I mean, I'm concerned. Anthony Black, really good defensive player as well. I think this game plays slow. I think it plays ugly. I'm trying to limit my exposure to this game as much as possible. Even a value piece like Oso. If this Oso guy is going to be mega chalk, I think it's chalk that I would likely be off of or completely fade and just hope that he doesn't random start somehow. Plumlee from a rebounds and from a rebound putback standpoint, but when you look at the flow chart, when you look at matchups, Orlando has just been an absolute nightmare matchup for centers. So could Mason Plumlee get there? Yes, he could, because he's so cheap, and he's obviously good at getting rebounds. And all it takes is a few rebounds, putbacks, and it's not, maybe a block or steal here and there. And, if you're a center, you're on your way to getting there. So 4,800. Mason Plumlee is someone I would consider, but I don't want to prioritize him. And I'm always hesitant to play Jonathan Isaac, even off the bench, 4,200. Like if he was in the 3K range, I would have a ton of interest, but I still am not sold on him just because his minutes are so up and down.
Yeah, see, Isaac's one, like I noticed he was popping and stuff, AP, and I was like, I don't want to do it. So I was hoping there would be a reason not to get to him. And this news alone will definitely help with that, right? Like it's a clear spot. You definitely need to play Pacers. There's no reason not to play Pacers. We can circle back to that really quick, and then we'll get plays of the day, and then we'll get on that. I think that matters, and I think we should just kind of dive in a little deeper. So if we look at this team, Siakam, I think you get a lot of Siakam at the 5, right? Like I think that happens a lot more now.
He's
in this
smash
game.
Play, man. He's such a good play. He's a smash play now.
Yes. Obi Toppin, I mean, it's a really nice spot for him. I'd say Walker and Obi Toppin are key guys that are going to get humongous bumps. You could see these guys play the 3 a little bit more. I'm curious if Benny Mac just plays like 40 minutes. He played 41 minutes against the Knicks, 43 against Boston. I don't know if those were overtime games for what it's worth. I'm just kind of shifting through game logs really quick here for you guys. But Benny Mac is going to have to play a ton. And the game could even go small at times. Or not small, but you could see Benny Mac, I think, even play the 4 if they wanted to stretch it out. Maybe that's a little crazy. It probably is. But he's going to play a lot at the 2 and the 3 regardless. And then, Halliburton, McConnell, there's just so much. The minutes are going to be so condensed on these really good players that are like mainly starters.
So, I mean, all right, here are the minutes yesterday against Miami. So okay. Ben Shepherd, who's not playing, he played 25. You have Mathurin played 37. Halliburton played 37, almost 38. Siakam played 35. Miles Turner, 40 minutes. He's out. You got TJ McConnell off the bench, 23. Obi Toppin off the bench, 17. Quentin Jackson, he played 6, 7. And then Walker played 16. So you got to think that this is going to be like, I just don't know a lot of these other guys. Like Carlisle hasn't really played them. So like, I think it's jam in a ton of Pacers. I mean, Halliburton, Siakam has to be one of the best, better plays up there with like TJ McConnell has to play big minutes too. Mathurin. Yeah, it's a smash spot with Indiana. The question is, and already posed in chat, how many is too many? Do I change my rule to 4 max? I'm definitely considering it. I still want the guys that hit their ceilings in this type of game. So sometimes these spots get too overstacked. In that environment, I want one of Pirtle and RJ Barrett. Like that game that goes to overtime or is just an elite fantasy type of game, I almost want like both sides of it where you run Pier, you get the overtime, and you got both sides of it. But Pacers definitely going to be chalk tonight, but definitely chalk that we want to eat.
And by the way, I'm not saying it's changing the slate, but Embiid going through pregame warmups, it definitely pulls you off some of these Sixers.
Yeah, I think the guy, honestly, like, all right, I love McCain. Is it McCann or McCain?
I don't know. I call him McCain, but it's probably McCain. I don't know.
The guy that paints his nails, which again, nothing against that. That's just how I identify him. He actually looks like his game is somewhat similar to like a John Morant. Like I don't know if that's I think probably better shooter, so I don't want to say that, but man, he's a baller. I might come off him a little bit because if Embiid is playing he's now the third option because it's Embiid, then Paul George, and then McCain. So like at 5,800, there is bust potential, especially against the Miami Heat. So that would be the move that I would make, and then I'd prioritize some of these other spots. So the spots that I want to prioritize, the Pacers, I want to prioritize Karl Anthony Towns still against the Wizards. I think it's a nut matchup. And I want to prioritize a few Pistons against the Bulls in a pace-up matchup. I think maybe the Pistons now, maybe ownership moves off them to prioritize news and some of these other spots. So again, I've watched the Bulls a ton now. This is a fantasy dream type spot, and I want to make sure I have some exposure to them. But really, the Pacers by far kind of the nut spot tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to ignore. You're definitely going to want to load up on these guys. It's one of those spots you got to think about how you play them and everything. So do not ignore it. Yeah, slate's definitely changed with that news. All right, AP, let's get the plays of the day for the people. I agree, Joe, by the way. Podol, going to smash. We talked about that. Barrett, Podol, they're definitely going to get a lot more work, and definitely guys you need to be looking at and considering on this slate. AP, I'm going to go first because I don't want you taking my guy. I don't think you will. But, as someone who backs the Pistons, I got to be careful. But give me Tobias Harris. I'm all in on Tobias Harris today. Big fan of him. I think he's a good play. So give me Tobias Harris as my play of the day.
Tobias, I can't make too much fun of it because they're playing the Bulls, pace-up matchup.
Oh, it's a dream spot. And you know what? He won't be as owned as he was going to be. So now some of these guys are going to shift off him for these other forward values, and that's okay. I'll still look at Tobias Harris as a good play.
I mean, I was going to say Siakam's too easy now. We can't go there. I'm gonna say Karl Anthony Towns. I just think maybe he could end up just mega chalk too, but it's just such a dream matchup. So I'm gonna say Karl Anthony Towns, and then anyone on the Pacers as well that's starting is probably a likely play of the day.
Yep, likely play of the day. Yes, Mr. Beefy Layer. We love you. You're been here for a while, but yes, we're gonna load up on Tobias. We're gonna keep the train coming with my guy Tobias Harris. But that's why DC.
I'd take Kyle Kuzma straight up over Tobias for a little Chipotle bet.
Oh man, the only problem is there what's the price difference? Oh, I mean it's not that bad. I'll do it. I'm in on it. I'll take it. Why not? To be honest, I haven't had Chipotle in a minute because Chipotle's not close.
I'm gonna play some Kuzma. Like when he 28 shots in under 30 minutes is ridiculous.
Listen, I'm a big Kuzma guy. Like I understand his ceiling. It's insane. Yeah. So I'm with you. I think he's a really good tournament player.
It's just they're an unserious basketball team. There's nothing serious about what the Wizards are doing, which is, I mean, it's you got Brogdon there. It's just so weird the whole dynamic of this team.
Kuzma will have the opportunity, right? And if he gets hot, he's going to keep shooting. This is the guy, AP, that said when he shot the shot, I forget. I think he was contested by someone, and it was in the bubble or whatever, the championship stuff or whatever. He shot a shot. And he was like, you shot that contested shot or whatever. What was your thought process? He was like, dude, I was shooting that shot if Jesus was covering me. I didn't care. He does not care. He chucks up shots, and he's going to chuck up shots, and he's got irrational confidence. So there you go. APL, we'll get one question from the chat. Grayson Allen, do you have any interest in him today? I don't think so. I think with the news we got, I don't need to get to it. But what about you?
Yeah, I hope he gets ownership because I'm going to be under. I respect this defense from Orlando. Grayson Allen's raw scoring dependent. I really want to prioritize some of these other guard spots. We have some really elite, truly elite plays at the spot. So I can't sit here and say I'm fading him fully. If he finds his way into a few of my builds, I think it's fine because his role obviously is nice, but it's not a spot that I want too much ownership to.
For sure. All right. Well, that will wrap it up for us on the show. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have a show for you guys breaking everything down. We also got the Showdown content. If you want to check that out over at Run Pure Sports, go check it out. Subscribe to the channel and hit the like on the way out. We would appreciate it. But for me, Mango and AP, we'll see you guys later.